There's something that I do like as of late that I saw when it comes to Zebec. And what is that, even though nothing I say is financial advice? Well, not too long ago, Zebec, they announced something, right? They made a post stating how they officially joined Circle's ARC testnet. Now, some people may be wondering, okay, what is ARC? Now, ARC is this layer 1 blockchain that was developed by Circle. Now, Circle, it is the creator of USDC, and then when it comes to Zebec, it is part of the Circle Alliance program. And not only that, one of the backers when it comes to Zebec is Circle. And then also on top of that as well, actually, Circle holds a significant amount, allegedly, at least according to Zebec themselves, of ZBCN. So I think this whole thing kind of makes a little bit more sense as to why probably they did join Circle's ARC testnet. Now, the way to take a look at it is that when it comes to this, again, when it comes to ARC, do I think that it is just another, cool layer one blockchain with some attention, but then it's not really going to do much? Well, I don't have that kind of notion because my point of view is that when it comes to Circle, they're very massive, right? So if they develop a layer one blockchain, it is something that I'm going to take a look into. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to automatically believe in something that they do, or every single thing that they do, I should say. But then at the same time, it is still pretty cool and interesting seeing that. So it kind of showcases as well that, Zebec's not forgotten about, because sometimes my friends out there, they like to tell me, oh, Circle, they don't really care about Zebec, they don't really care about it at all. But then again, stuff like this kind of showcases that I think in a sense, Zebec is still cared about by Circle to a certain extent, I think probably. Now, when I take a look at something like, again, Circle, people like to say, okay, it's not really that interesting because, how are they really helping Zebec in any way? Well, again, not only are they a backer, but they hold a significant amount of ZBCN. I think that, if anything, probably creates a little bit, hypothetically, I would say to a certain extent, more stability, probably, right? When it comes to ZBCN, as opposed to if, let's say, it was just not being held by Circle at all. Maybe there's a different scenario. Maybe there's a lot more selling pressure or something like that. When it comes to Circle as well, I think what really makes it kind of interesting to see them kind of backing Zebec is that when it comes to Zebec, again, they're heavily focused on payrolls. And by being on the Circle Alliance program, or should I say by being in the Circle Alliance program, I think that's really going to help it maybe connect with, let's say, other projects, or let's say maybe even, talk to other institutions, which is why I think probably now we see over 200 payroll enterprise clients when it comes to Zebec. I think that type of stuff, again, does matter because some people out there like to say, oh, being part of the Circle Alliance program didn't really do much when it comes to Zebec. But I think to a certain extent, I disagree with that because I think, promptly by doing that, it's going to probably make it an easier entry to kind of probably partner up with institutions or, let's say, enterprises. Because if, let's say, an enterprise who's already kind of in the know, so to speak, when it comes to the Circle Alliance, if they've already kind of worked with other projects there, and then they see something like Zebec, which is part of the Circle Alliance program, that just makes, I think, more of an easier kind of path to maybe have a discussion, have a meeting, and stuff like that, which could maybe hypothetically, have some sort of partnership, which is why I think, again, there's over 200 payroll enterprise clients, and I think maybe a lot of that is probably contributed to stuff like this. Now, when it comes to Zebec, my point of view as well is that, sure, when it comes to ZBCN, 10 cents is around a 32x from here. Totally aware of that. The pullback has been pretty massive, I would say. But at the same time, when I just take a look at Zebec overall, I just don't think the fundamentals have changed in any negative way. I would say that, if anything, it's actually sort of still improving, still doing its thing. Because if I take a look at it, right, did Zebec change its focus? I don't think so. It's still focused on pretty much the core things that I was pretty much looking forward to Zebec being focused on from the beginning, and it's still doing that. So why would I suddenly not like it just because the price isn't doing the best? Well, again, a bunch of altcoins are also not doing the best. And then also on top of that, I don't think Circle gave up on Zebec, right? Not to mention, actually, if we take a look at Circle, they're publicly listed, right? But then if we take a look at Solana Ventures, they're also a backer when it comes to Zebec. So those are some, I think, kind of impressive things to achieve. Imagine this. Circle is an early backer when it comes to Zebec. So if we're talking about the early stages when it comes to Zebec, it didn't really prove much yet, right? I mean, I'm assuming if we take a look at ZBCN back then, it's not like it was anywhere as popular as it is right now. As of right now, even despite the pullback, right? The market cap is still in the hundreds of millions. So imagine what it kind of took for Zebec to have something like Circle, something like Solana Ventures, to really even back them in the first place, despite back then kind of being unproven, right? Again, they're an early backer. So I feel like maybe fundamentally they could hypothetically see something in this, who knows? Because let's face it, right? I mean, does Solana Ventures or Circle really need Zebec in the grand scheme of things? I don't really think so. So if they actually believe in something like this, what did they see fundamentally? Now, I'm not a part of their team, so I have no way to answer that question. However, if it was tied to the fundamentals, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me because, again, being focused on payrolls, it's not necessarily such an interesting thing to be focused on, right? But then Zebec is still focused on that anyways. Not to mention, when it comes to payments, global trade and finance, that's a little bit kind of general. Like a lot of projects are focused on that, generally speaking. But then when it comes to, let's say, something like, again, payrolls, it's a little bit more unique. It's a little bit more kind of specialized in a way. So I think that right there makes it pretty interesting when it comes to Zebec. Not to mention, we take a look at it's focused on RWAs, real world assets. Again, a bunch of other projects that are focused on that, but still, it's still pretty interesting, I think. And also, I think because Circle is, again, the creator of USDC, I think that right there kind of also indirectly, hypothetically, somewhat could help Zebec in its sort of payroll sort of mission because, again, that sort of USDC aspect, I think that could play a role to something like Zebec. And not to mention, when I take a look at Zebec as well, people like to say, oh, having that Solana aspect isn't really going to mean much because Solana isn't as popular as it once was not too long ago. Again, yeah, sure, Solana isn't as popular as it was not too long ago when the price was doing better, but at the same time, if let's say Solana has that, next leg up, could the ZBCN hypothetically maybe join that ride? To a certain extent, it wouldn't surprise me because I think being top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana is a pretty impressive achievement, and we saw that when it comes to ZBCN some time ago, right before, the pullback and stuff like that. And also, even though Solana is more so known for the meme coins and stuff like that, I still think that, seeing something like Zebec have an aspect of Solana, it brings a different kind of touch to Solana overall. And sure, again, 10 cents, considering current circulating supply market cap would be around 9.5 billion. But, I just don't think it's anything that groundbreaking. I don't think it's anything that sort of, you know, like breaking any milestones type of vibe. It is just a market cap that is, in the grand scheme of things, not hypothetically that small, but not hypothetically that massive either. So yeah, overall, I'm just waiting. If let's say there's even an altcoin season, I'm just staying patient. That's all I can do, really. But in the meantime, I must say that I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to Zebec in terms of what they're doing, joining the Circle Art testnet, which, only time will tell what that will be. But I still like seeing that nonetheless because I think it kind of showcases that it's not necessarily forgotten about when it comes to Circle. Or should I say Circle hasn't quite necessarily forgot about this, despite a lot of my friends like to say that, but yeah, I just don't think it has in my personal perspective. And I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you'll have a nice day. And of course, I'm going to be making more updated videos when it comes to Zebec, so feel free to stay tuned for those ones. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.